What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We've got a packed MMA news update today, so let's jump right into it, starting with Arman Tsarukyan taking yet another shot at Paddy Pimblett. It's starting to feel like a routine at this point. Another day, another comment from Arman, and once again, Paddy is the target. Before we break everything down, make sure you drop a like on the video to support the channel and help push this content out to more MMA fans. Arman Tsarukyan recently appeared on the One Night with Steiny podcast, where he shared his thoughts on the upcoming fight between Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje. During the discussion, Arman made it clear who he wants to see win, but he wasn't exactly confident about how it would happen. When asked about his expectations for Gaethje versus Pimblett, Arman said he hopes Gaethje wins, even mentioning a knockout as his ideal outcome. But almost immediately, he walked that back, saying he doesn't actually see Gaethje knocking Paddy out. Instead, Arman believes that if Gaethje wins, it would most likely be by decision. According to him, the only two realistic outcomes are Gaethje winning on the scorecards or losing the fight altogether. The conversation then shifted toward who the UFC might be favoring in this matchup. Arman didn't hesitate with his answer. He said the promotion clearly wants Paddy to win. He even went a step further, suggesting that this is the reason the UFC never booked him against Pimblett in the first place. In Arman's view, the UFC knows Paddy would lose that matchup. He went on to say that if you were to ask Dana White directly who would win a fight between Arman Tsarukyan and Paddy Pimblett, and Dana answered Paddy, that alone would tell you everything you need to know about how the UFC operates. After the interview aired, Arman wasn't done. He took to social media to fire off another shot at Pimblett, criticizing him for not doing enough to promote his upcoming fight. Arman pointed out that it's fight week for Paddy, yet Arman claims he's the one doing the press run, appearing in interviews, going live, and staying active while Paddy remains relatively quiet. He called it a bad look for the UFC and openly mocked Pimblett, saying he needs to wake up and start doing his job. According to Arman, the promotion is leaning on him to generate buzz while Paddy benefits from the spotlight without putting in the same effort. Staying on the topic of Arman Tsarukyan, he also shared some broader frustrations about how the UFC is currently being run. When asked if there's anything he would change about the promotion, Arman said he believes fighters should be rewarded based on skill and merit, not social media following. In his opinion, if a fighter deserves a title shot based on rankings and performance, they should get it, regardless of how many followers they have. He acknowledged that the UFC is a business and that making money is important, even admitting that if he were in their position, he might make similar decisions. Still, he made it clear that he doesn't fully agree with how things are being handled, especially with new contracts and business deals in place. Arman also floated an interesting idea, an 8-fighter Grand Prix. In his vision, fighters would compete over a 6-week period, and by the end of it, there would be a clear champion, injuries or not. While it's an intriguing concept, it's worth noting that something like this would be extremely difficult to approve due to athletic commission rules, medical suspensions, and clearance requirements. Moving on to the next story, Dricus du Plessis' coach is making headlines after claiming that Khamzat Chimaev wasn't willing to fight at UFC 319. Dricus du Plessis lost the middleweight title to Chimaev last August at UFC 319 in what ended up being a dominant unanimous decision. Many fans and analysts expected DDP's strength, toughness, and awkward style to pose serious problems, but that didn't happen. Chimaev took him down repeatedly and largely controlled the fight from start to finish. Recently, DDP's coach Morn Visser spoke with Fight Forecast and reflected on that loss. According to Visser, the fight came down to a series of small mistakes that added up over every minute of every round. He described them as easy fixes and admitted that the team simply wasn't prepared. Visser then made a statement that raised some eyebrows. He said they were not prepared to fight someone who wasn't willing to engage. In his view, Chimaev wasn't interested in fighting in the traditional sense. Instead, he focused on control and avoiding exchanges. Visser claimed that if they had known Chimaev would approach the fight that way, they would have adjusted the game plan completely, eliminating strikes and focusing solely on wrestling. He also criticized the officiating, saying Chimaev kept DDP on the ground without truly engaging. While referee Mark Goddard reportedly disagreed with that assessment, Visser pointed to strike statistics, claiming that Chimaev threw hundreds of strikes with very few being significant. According to official UFC stats, 37% of Chimaev's 529 strikes were significant. While that doesn't suggest a brutal striking performance, it doesn't change the outcome. Chimaev did what he needed to do to win decisively. After that interview aired, Dricus du Plessis himself spoke with the same outlet and shared his thoughts. He gave Chimaev credit for executing a winning strategy but didn't hide his frustration. DDP said the fight was boring and admitted that even he was bored while being in the cage. He explained that Chimaev stayed out of danger, neutralized everything he brought to the table, and avoided turning it into the kind of fight fans were expecting. According to DDP, if the fight had become more open and aggressive, the result might have been very different, but Chimaev was smart enough not to allow that. Despite the frustration, DDP said the experience highlighted areas he needs to improve. He called it a speed bump rather than a setback and promised that fans would see noticeable changes in his next performance. As for what's next, DDP's coach revealed that they're planning a return in April. The potential opponents mentioned were Brendan Allen or Nasruddin Imavov in a 3-round fight. Visser even added that if it's Allen, he believes Allen is in for a rough night. Next up, Jorge Masvidal continues to tease a possible fight with Conor McGregor at the rumored UFC White House card. A few days ago, Masvidal reignited the rumors by hinting that talks are happening behind the scenes. While both fighters are well past their primes, the interest in this matchup remains massive. Masvidal claims his management is actively pursuing the fight and that communication is open. Speaking with Ariel Helwani, Masvidal said his manager has been in direct contact with UFC executives and that things aren't looking bad. He didn't give too many details but emphasized that dialogue is happening and that the fight is being discussed seriously. Of course, there's always the possibility that Masvidal is playing things up to generate hype. Still, there's no denying the fight would draw huge numbers. In another interview with Death Row MMA, Masvidal talked about how he matches up against McGregor and didn't hold back. He said stylistically, it's a bad fight for Conor. According to Masvidal, he's bigger, faster with his hands, and a nightmare matchup. He even suggested that the UFC would be better off giving McGregor someone he could realistically beat, implying that Masvidal isn't that guy. Masvidal also claimed the fight would break records and crash streaming platforms, saying the viewership alone would justify making it happen. He ended his comments with more trash talk, questioning McGregor's readiness and making it clear he believes he would dominate the fight. What do you think? Would this be a massive event for the UFC and Paramount, or is it all just talk? Speaking of McGregor, he recently posted a photo showing his physique, and he appears to be in solid shape. With all the speculation surrounding the UFC White House card, fans are hoping this finally marks his long-awaited return. Meanwhile, Dustin Poirier also appeared on Ariel Helwani's show and was asked whether things are good between him and McGregor after Conor congratulated him on the birth of his son. Poirier shut that down quickly, making it clear there's no peace between them. Next, Joe Pyfer made waves by suggesting Israel Adesanya could retire if he loses their upcoming fight. Adesanya is set to face Pyfer on March 28 in Seattle, marking his first fight since his loss earlier this year. Pyfer believes this fight carries major implications and discussed it at length on the Brady Bags show. According to Pyfer, Adesanya sees this matchup as a chance to prove he can still compete at the highest level, but Pyfer also believes that if he wins, it could signal the end of Adesanya's career. He acknowledged that fans have been hard on Adesanya and pointed out that not all of his recent losses were one-sided still, with 3 straight losses in his age. Pyfer thinks a defeat here might push Adesanya toward retirement. Betting odds currently have Adesanya as a slight underdog heading into the fight. Moving on, Sean O'Malley is still chasing his dream of becoming the biggest star in the UFC. Despite recent setbacks, O'Malley says he hasn't lost sight of that goal. In the countdown show for UFC 324, he spoke openly about wanting to be the #1 draw in the sport. He admitted he was never truly the guy, but believes he still has the potential. Starting with a win over Song Yadong this weekend, O'Malley remains confident and hungry, even acknowledging the tough competition at bantamweight and featherweight. Next up, Dana White was caught on video giving a valet driver a $1,000 tip. This isn't the first time he's done something like this, as he was seen doing the same thing last year. While fighters and fans debate pay issues, moments like this highlight Dana's personal generosity. Justin Gaethje also made headlines by revealing what he considers the biggest mistake of his career. Ahead of his fight with Paddy Pimblett at UFC 324, Gaethje spoke with ESPN MMA and reflected on his loss to Max Holloway, saying he approached it with the wrong mindset. He admitted he treated it like a fun fight rather than recognizing the danger. That experience has clearly stayed with him, and he says his preparation for the Pimblett fight has been completely different. Gaethje even said he wants to take Paddy into the later rounds and hurt him, emphasizing how locked in he is. Dustin Poirier has since predicted that Gaethje will win by knockout. Finally, the MMA community is concerned about Paddy Pimblett after footage surfaced showing him vaping during training. Some fans questioned his cardio, while others defended him, saying nicotine can help with focus and weight cutting. Opinions are clearly split, but one thing is certain, Paddy's habits are under the microscope heading into UFC 324. And that's going to wrap up today's MMA news update. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you tomorrow.